Hey everyone, welcome back to another remote Sixer day. Athletics is a big part of Paul VI High School, just like every other high school. But at Paul VI, we hold our athletes to a higher level through our Play Like a Champion program. This is a University of Notre Dame program that was brought to us by the continued effort of Miss Donna Camardo, who joins us today.
Hey, Steve.
How you
Hi,
doing?
Katie. Hello. So glad
Ms.
you're here.
Camardo is an alum of Paul VI. She played basketball when she was a student. She also was a coach, former coach. She is a teacher. She's parent of Paul VI alum. So she's very familiar with Paul VI. And she is also the director of team development. So she's going to be with us today to talk a little bit more about Play Like a Champion. So what is Play Like a Champion today? And how and why did you bring it to Paul VI?
Well, Play Like a Champion today is a national program that addresses the needs and concerns of coaches, parents, and athletes. It's designed specifically to elevate the culture of the Catholic school-sponsored sporting events. It came to Paul VI via Sister Marianne. She was the person who first was told of the program. She asked me, she said, I want a program. I don't just want, a 1-year stint. I want something over 5 years. I want you to go out to Notre Dame, find out what it's all about, and bring it back. And that's pretty much what I did. And what's great about it is it's an ongoing program. It's designed to help athletics develop our youth physically, socially, morally, spiritually. A big component of it is the spiritual component and the service component. And that's what distinguishes a Catholic school sport from a public school sport. All members of the community have a stake in the success, which is also very helpful, because if you don't have the support of the administration and you don't have the support of the parents and the coaches, Play Like a Champion is just another lip service activity.
So Donna, the relationship with Notre Dame, is that an ongoing situation?
It is ongoing. In fact, it's funny because at this very moment, I was supposed to be on a webinar with them as a partner, because we are a full partnership with Notre Dame, which means to the civilian kind of person, it simply means that we are affiliated with Notre Dame's program. For me, it provides us with a lot of support in the way of weekly coach letters, monthly parent letters, monthly athlete letters that address different concerns in coaching, parenting, or participating in sports. It also gives us ideas. It gives us a venue to see what people across the country are doing. They are beginning to implement a parent program right now, which is what the meeting was supposed to be about today, because they're trying to reach out to parents now because of the kids all being at home, and try to provide some support for them. So to answer your original question, yes, it is ongoing. We have sent coaches out there to be trained. This past year, I wasn't able to go physically, but they provided an ability through virtual meetings that I could participate in the in-service and the updates of the Play Like a Champion program through long distance learning.
Wonderful.
Who actually takes the pledge for Play Like a Champion, and what do they promise exactly?
Well, every student takes the pledge, and it's more or less that they are promising that they're going to react to sports as a spiritual and character building experience. The big component is, or I should say the hardest thing is, to get high school student athletes to be comfortable with their faith. To get students in general to be comfortable with their faith is difficult, but to get student athletes to be comfortable with their faith and to be able to express it is a big component of Play Like a Champion. Now, the way that we try to do that little things like saying a prayer before every practice, saying a prayer after every practice, creating some sort of ongoing, repetitive kind of thing. The girls' soccer team would go to the statue of Mary in the garden to say a prayer before every game. It's trying to bring back the true meaning of sportsmanship. And if you are a sportsman, you're involved in service to your community. You're involved in service to God in our case. And that's what we're trying to impart on the kids. So what they promise, and we're talking about high school kids, so it doesn't always work, but what they promise is that they truly represent the name on the front of the jersey, which is Paul VI High School. And when they don't, it is addressed and there are consequences. Mm-hmm. So, I try to go around to all the coaches. The coaches get in-serviced every year about what their role is. And even some of our coaches are not necessarily Catholic. And the onus is not on the coach to make sure that the kids are praying and the kids are planning service activities. The onus is on the kids and on the captains. So they're the ones responsible. And that's what you really like to see when you look at a team and it's not the coach saying, okay, let's huddle up and say a prayer. It's the kids that are saying it. And it's the kids that are coming to me and saying, we have an idea for a service project. Do you think you could help us get this organized? And that's where our campus ministry, we have to work very closely with them to make that happen.
Now, I know that one of the features of Play Like a Champion is the captain's class. So Can you tell us, what is that class? Who takes the class?
Well, we found out that even though we have a lot of really good leaders in the school, a lot of times captains ended up maybe being the best player who's not necessarily the best leader. And what makes a good leader? So part of Play Like a Champion, one of the focuses was on identifying a good leader and the 12 keys to leadership. And without getting into that, the course addresses those keys to being a good leader. The absence of an ego, not worrying about what other people think if you are honest and tell the truth, doing the right thing when nobody's looking. Anybody can take the captain's course who is a student athlete. Most of the time, we'll get the kids who are recommended by the coaches because they identify them as leaders. But oftentimes, juniors or seniors will come to me and say, can I take the captain's course? And, maybe their coach didn't identify them as a leader because they were too quiet, or maybe they're not, somebody who plays all the time. So a coach is hesitant to make them a captain. So really anybody can take the course. It's an 8-week course that's offered in the morning. Eventually the goal is to have it as a class of some sort, even if it's a semester or a quarter, but to have it as a class so that it could be open even to underclassmen. Right now, since it is in the morning, it's limited with kids who can drive and get there by 7:15. It's limited by kids who, we try to get to the older kids just because they're the ones that are going to be respected by their peers. But, teaching them to respect themselves is a big component of that, and to respect the job they do. So I meet with the captains each season, at least twice, if not more, and get feedback from them on the coaching class. But you can't, or the captain's class, you cannot serve as a captain without completing the course.
And Don, how long is the course?
The course is just 8 weeks, once a week, 45 minutes a day, or 45 minutes once a week, 8 weeks.
Okay.
And I mean, it's good in that I know my best captain ever was a kid who never really stepped foot on the court. I mean, she was not a good player whatsoever, but the best leader that I ever had. And that's when we started to think about, what can we do to teach some of these kids how to be good leaders? It's not, in some cases it's inherent, but in other cases it's a learned trait. So that was what, that was what the goal was.
Well,
And are these bracelets like an outward sign that they've taken the course? And
Both. All the captains that have completed the course are supposed to get one this year. I'm not so sure anything happened, but then also I give however many they need to each coach at each level. So freshman, JV, and varsity. And I say to them that it should go to a player, if you can do it weekly, but every 2 weeks, whatever, a player who exemplifies play like a champion. And by that, I mean a true sportsman. So maybe it's the kid who just goes and gets the water every day and never complains. Or it's the kid who, who forgot or who helps out somebody who's feeling, under the weather or down about something, or the kid who picks up another kid, picks him up when he's down. But somebody who doesn't have the best play on the field. That's not what a play like a champion kid is. It can be, but maybe it's the kid who is cheering from the sidelines louder than anybody else and is so happy to just be a part of the team. That's the kid you want to identify, and you want to tell the rest of the team, this is why I'm identifying this kid. Right. Or it's the student athlete who comes up with a service project and sees it through from start to finish for the whole team. So that's where the bracelets come in. And a lot of times, I'll give them out because I'll recognize something if I'm at a game, or even somebody who doesn't retaliate, so a kid is jawing at another kid or trash talking another kid, and that kid just basically smiles and walks away. That's what we want. That's the kind of behavior that the bracelets are trying to enforce.
Now, you did touch on this a little bit earlier about service projects. I think we have a little picture of it, and I happen to know it's from the I Race for Vocations, but can you maybe give your favorite example of sports and community service intersecting at Paul VI?
Well, I think my favorite intersection is with the Special Olympics because it involves so many kids, and our kids are there all day long. So the I Race for Vocations is great. That's the picture that you have up. The Special Olympics we did for 5 consecutive years, and they always said that we were the best group that they ever had because they didn't have to tell us anything. The basketball team would do the basketball Special Olympics, so we knew how to use the clock, make the announcements, ref the game, like it was everything. This year we didn't do it because they didn't need us. They ended up canceling, obviously, with this pandemic. Right. But instead, we did have a few kids that went to the JCC every Monday and played basketball. Now, the cheerleaders, they always do multiple service projects that revolve around breast cancer. That's another great cause. And this year, what was nice was they brought the football players with them. So the football players were also involved in the cheerleading. And that's what we're trying to do as well, get the teams to work together. Now, that's a big thing because I think that helps them learn about each other, learn about each other's sports, learn about what they like to do, and go from there. So anything from cleanup to, actually working out like girls soccer does something called Tops, where they go every Saturday during their season and they buddy up with a special needs child and play soccer. And they develop a real relationship to where those kids come to a game at the end of the year and are on the field with the girls. So that my favorite is any of the ones. I hate to be partial to little kids with special needs, but it's just so nice to see them interact because sometimes I think our kids are so sheltered. And this way they get out there and see what they really like. There was a girl who got involved in the Special Olympics and she ended up going to school for special education because of it. So you always like that kind of feel good story.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
And does Play Like a Champion and the school kind of encourage the multiple sports being played by the same one athlete, or?
Hey, I do, because you can't survive at a Catholic school unless you share athletes. And I know some coaches maybe don't agree with me, but all the research shows that kids should play multiple sports. Now, I'm going to definitely date myself, because back in the day, we all played 3 sports. But back then, sports weren't year round. So that's the other issue. Kids think, oh, if I don't play basketball all year round, I'm going to miss out on that college scholarship, which is so untrue.
Right.
So I just think more and more we have to encourage a 3-sport athlete. And one of the things that we're doing to encourage that is with this new class coming in, these freshmen, if they play a sport, 3 sports for 4 years, we're going to have an award at the end of their senior season that is a golden eagle. And their name will be up on a plaque by wherever sister decides to hang it, and they'll get a golden eagle, with their name on it, and the fact that they played 3 sports for 4 years. They don't have to play 3. I'm not saying they have to be a varsity athlete, from their freshman year.
Right.
They just have to play 3 sports for 4 years. And I think that's going to help, because it's going to put the onus on, like, oh, well, what could I do in the spring? And you look at other places, or kids with scholarships, college coaches want you to play multiple sports. They want their football players wrestling and running track. They want their basketball players running track or playing some other sport. So we just have to jump on with that and encourage it a little more.
So to just emphasize, this class of 2024, they're the inaugural class for this Golden Eagle.
Correct.
Program. Nice. Well, we definitely like to share these segments with our incoming freshmen. So I want to emphasize that this is something very special.
Yeah, sister loved the idea. It was first presented by our football coach. Actually, he and I were trying to just brainstorm, what can we do to encourage it? So, and sister jumped on it. So with her support, it's great.
Well, now here you are in your element, your Play Like a Champion office, and your title is Director of Team Development. So how does that differ from a traditional athletic director's role?
Well, in our school, the difference or the delineation has become the athletic director is pretty much involved with the scheduling with the conference, the busing, and the budget. So I deal with the coaches, the parents, and the kids.
Okay.
So, and that's really the delineation. So I'm responsible for, keeping our coaches happy as best I can. Working with them with what their needs are, whether it be equipment or workshops or whatever it happens to be, trying to get them to get what they need. As far as the parents go, I try to communicate with them as best I can. We have a parent meeting in the beginning of the year that kicks off the school year with a mass. And we outline the Play Like a Champion. I've been trying to get a champion parents group going. It hasn't really caught on just yet. I mean, I have a few parents that always help, which is what you always get. But we're trying to make that grow a little bit. And then I'm responsible for the kids. So, and that's my favorite in the sense that if the kids are having any issues with a coach, what we try to do with Play Like a Champion is have the kids take ownership of their sport and their role in the sport. So I have 2 kids. I understand trying to make everything right for your kid. And I've made mistakes along the way with approaching coaches or whatever. But what we try to teach the kids is you go to the coach. And if you don't feel comfortable going to the coach, my office is a safe place. If you want to come tell me what's going on, and we can either talk to the coach together, or I can find a way to address the coach. And we can solve this problem for you. that's the real goal, is to let the kids get ownership, and sometimes convincing the parent that it's okay. We have the child's best interest at heart, and I'm not going to side with the coach or side with whatever. I'm going to just listen to your child, take notes, and help your child express their feelings to the coach. So
Valuable.
that's the difference in the roles.
You also tend to be the voice. The picture's not coming up, but the voice at the basketball game.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's
Tell
true.
me
That's
about
something
that.
I mean, my friendship with Rich Daniels and John Zettelmoyer, who's no longer at our place, but they started wanting to live stream. And my thing was, let the kids do the announcing. But the kids were very backward about it at first. So
There
they
you
didn't want to.
There we go. You and
Yeah,
Isaiah.
so me and Isaiah, we kind of took over and had a blast with it. And I probably had more complaints about me than the kids, because, you know, I would say things that probably, you know, maybe I shouldn't, but it was fun. And that it was all in good fun. Nobody was
Right.
trying to hurt anybody else or insult anybody else. And then working together with PVI News was really helpful, because we would get the kids to get their shout outs, to get, you know, if it caught on. Like I used to try to get them to tell me, like, who won, you know, like who won the game. I can't be at every single game.
Right.
So now when they would hear me announce certain things, then they'd be like, well, why didn't you announce us? And then it became, well, why didn't you tell me? So again, the responsibility going back to the kids, because that's who has to do it, not the parents, not the coaches, it's the kids.
Right.
And the TV crew is awesome. You know, they are behind the scenes and they do such a good job. And it's all on their own time, which is the other thing. So these guys stay from after school till the game ends at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and they break down everything. So it's a great relationship. I mean, and I think the fact that, you know, Rich and I work well together helps the kids working with me, because they'll come to me and say, you know, I need this roster, I need this, which is where before Rich and I would get it going, but now the kids do. And hopefully next year, as much as I have a blast doing it, I'm hoping, you know, it's 2 students doing it next year.
And that's a wonderful athlete for student athletes or athletes
yeah.
at heart as well.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's great.
Now, here's
The flock.
a very, yes, Duff Flock. So tell us about the flock. How did it start?
Oof.
Tell us everything.
Well, the flock started, I'm going to say probably 5, let me think. No, more like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Cause I'm thinking it was the Matt Reese, JJ, what was his name? JJ. I can't think of his last name, but anyway.
JJ Howard.
With JJ Howard, Ivan, who was the other one?
You know what, Donna?
Yeah.
I can actually put a date. Of course, I chose a picture that has my son in there, that top,
Oh, good.
top left. But when he was in 8th grade, he got to sit with Duff Flock when
Okay.
we played Notre Dame High School. And let me tell you, that was just,
Sure.
a highlight. So he's in his finishing up his 4th year of college. So
Okay.
that's
All
8
right.
years.
So 8 years then. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay. So the funny part is the flock, the girls, let's go back a little bit. So the girls team, when I was coaching, we used to have a group called the Blue Crew, but they were 8th grade boys that happened to be in the class of my assistant coach at the time, who was Megan O'Brien. So they would travel everywhere with us, paint their faces, the whole bit. They were all the girls had. This was our Blue Crew. Well, in that Blue Crew was some of the boys who then came on board to play basketball. And they decided, well, why don't we have a Blue Crew? So the Reese family started giving us shirts for Duff Flock. And where Duff Flock came from, I'm clueless on that. I know it was flock, but I don't know where Duff Flock came from. I think it was just somebody decided that was what they wanted to do. So it became such a big thing that they came to all the boys' games. Of course, the girls who started the Blue Crew now went by the wayside, but that's okay. So they would gather at all the games. And then I think that first year when the boys went to the finals was huge because we brought 6 or 7 busloads of kids to that game. Wow. And it was logistically, I was so stressed. It was a nightmare. I mean, I had to buy all their tickets ahead of time. We had to bring them in the back door, get them in, so that we didn't disrupt people, like the whole bit. But that really cemented the flock. And now the leadership passes from year to year. So this year, they were there. They were at the boys' games. They even went to a lot of the girls' games. Ice hockey has their own hock flock. Soccer had a sock flock. So not everybody is in every flock, but the big one is, of course, basketball, which is big for everybody. And hopefully next year, it'll be there for football as well.
Oh, that'll be wonderful. Absolutely. So we do have a special picture coming up.
It's delayed as all the pictures tend to be on Zoom. But when you're screen sharing, but it's of your basketball team.
Oh God.
You were at Paul VI. Do you have any
as a player?
Yeah, as a player.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. As a player.
We know people.
That was a long time ago.
Well,
a long time ago.
Your books are ageless, so.
Yes, yeah, right. Now my only basketball is on a Fisher-Price dunk it. That's about
it's
it.
A good thing.
Well, yeah, when I played, it is so different. Well, first of all, look at the uniforms. Girls played in tunics with a Peter Pan collar shirt. Like, okay? So there's your first thing. But I have to say, my coach then was Vicky Orzechowski, who is my mentor to this day. I cannot say enough wonderful things about that woman. The difference in sports was that girls were just starting to be able to play. I mean, it's the Title IX. It's the switch over from, 6 players where only 2 could cross half court to a 5-player game like the boys have. And my pet peeve is that, we were state champs. We went as far as we could go. But, we had 1,000-point scorers, and we only played 15 games a year, and we had no 3-point line.
Wow.
So you put that in perspective, just the length of season, the amount of training, and the camaraderie, I think now is so different because now kids go play AAU and they come back and you're trying to break them of bad habits that they learned in AAU because AAU is very much an I game, not a team game. And now you try to play a team game. Whereas we all played, like everybody in that picture all played 3 sports.
Wow.
So, I mean, even the star was Mary Scharf. She was the only person who was invited to play AAU, which is what had to happen back then. You didn't pay all this money, and if you didn't get on an AAU team, then somebody just started another one. It was the elite of the elite played AAU. And it's like some of us had aspirations to play in college. I went to Monmouth initially. I was planning to play basketball. I started playing tennis. I decided I'd play tennis instead. So check out, look, what are they, Keds?
I know.
Keds and ankle socks. Like, it's hysterical now when you look at it, because I'll say to the kids, like basketball, we at least had a gym, but we used to play after school. We never played at night. It wasn't until Title IX came along and said, oh, well, the girls have to play at night just like the boys. You have to pay to get into a girls' game just like the boys. That part of things, I think, hurt girls' sports because nobody wanted to come back to see us play, and nobody wanted to pay. So we lost our few crowd that we, our little crowds that we had. But the talent was there. The talent was there. But the game now, The game now is just so different.
Sure.
Most of us probably wouldn't survive. Some of us we should have been playing now and not then, because of how good the athletes were. You have Deirdre Kane in there, who she coached at Westchester. She's a legend at Westchester. Mary Scharf unfortunately passed away, but nobody could hold a candle to that kid. She was by and far the best player South Jersey's ever seen. So, it's way different now. The game is different. The equipment's different. Now there's a girls' ball. We didn't play with the girls' ball. We all played with the same ball.
Okay.
And you still have 1,000 points.
It's funny. It's funny now. Even like with all the sports, like with field hockey, I think I lasted in field hockey for 2 weeks because we didn't have shin guards. I was like, I'm not letting my shins get beat up.
Oh my God.
And we had to carry the cages through the woods. It was like over the river and through the woods with the cages we go, over to what used to be Green Valley. Now is that turf field.
Was it uphill both ways too?
What's that?
Uphill both ways too.
Uphill both ways. And like
far.
when we practiced on our home field, our conditioning was picking up all the rocks on the field and carrying them in a bucket so that we could play.
Oh my God.
Sister hates that story. But it's the truth.
I'm sorry. Rocks.
Rocks. We had to pick them up so that we wouldn't get hurt.
Oh my goodness.
Are there any other special plans for the future of Play Like a Champion? Or
one big thing that we'd like to see happen, I hope is going to happen in conjunction with campus ministry, is we are trying to, I don't know if you saw, there was a series in the Inquirer about student athletes and hunger, and how in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, everywhere, student athletes were just conditioning and working out to a fault because they were trying to forget about their hunger. And kids were going to school without proper nutrition. I know that happens everywhere, but the student athlete was one that was not really as visual, because you had these great athletes who were working out, but they really were not getting enough nutrients, and still are not. So anyway, bottom line is the goal is to eradicate student athlete hunger. What we'd like to do is work in conjunction with the group that put that article out, and see if we can make it a project for all of our teams. So we're at the very basic, like submarine almost stage, because we don't know enough of what their needs are. We don't know how we can fit in. But Claire McNamee and I have been in touch with the group, and we're trying to find out if we can make it a project where every team is involved and it's ongoing. So it's almost like the Paul Six Champ project. But everybody would be involved in a different facet. So, I mean, that's on the table. That's the future. I just don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know how we're going to make it work. And in the spring, we were hoping to try to get some tentacles in what we were doing, but it's going to have to wait a little bit now.
Sure, but we look forward to that.
Yeah, me too. I think it'll be cool.
Now, we do have a little feature at the end of our
pop up eventually.
Of our segments called the surprise question. And this one is a little bit dependent on the visual. So I'm hoping that Steve can, I think the weather is not our friend today either. All right, well then I'll just let you know. Donna, you, such a member of our Paul Six community, and one of our annual traditions is the blessing of the animals. Yes, Donna, I did try. I was not able to find the picture I had in mind, but maybe you'd like to share a blessing of the animals story.
My pygmy goats. I can't tell the whole story because I'm not sure it's suitable for young people, but my pygmy goats were a gift from my son. Their names were Bip and Rita. but they were twin pygmy goats. So of course he had to get two. Now, anyone who knows my son knows that we have had every pet in my house humanly possible, and I am not a pet person. So long story short, these were my favorite pets of all time, my pygmy goats. I always wanted a pygmy goat because I thought it was the perfect pet. It eats your grass, so you don't have to feed it. It runs around outside. It's, you know, it's like an automatic lawnmower. I mean, I thought it was like the best of both worlds. It was wonderful. They don't bite. They don't hurt anybody. They're fun to play with. They run around all day. So my son showed up home with two pygmy goats and gave them to me. Wow. So my mom, when she lived with me, used to literally sit by her window and just watch them run. And since they were twins, they did everything in unison. So they would run in unison, they would go eat in unison, and the kids on the neighborhood loved them. Wow. So now the joke is that I need pygmy goats again, but I really don't. So I need that said as well. I do have them again.
Putting it out there, no one is to deliver pygmy goats to your home.
Because all my son would have to hear is that I liked them and I'll have two. So I can't.
Hopefully he doesn't watch this.
No, he might. I don't know.
Good luck.
I don't know. So
good luck. Well, thank you for sharing that. There is a picture somewhere. I asked a few people and did as much digging as time permitted, and I just wasn't able to find it. But there is a very sweet picture of you at the Blessing of the Animals.
Right, that's what I was going to say. That was when everybody found out about my pygmy goats, was at the Blessing of the Animals, because I brought two goats on a little leash.
I do think it took the prize that year for the most unusual pets.
Well, thank you. This was I love what you guys are doing with this remote Sixers. You know, it's great. It gives us something to look forward to. I hope we can get back and see each other in person.
Same here. And we are just so grateful that we have so many good things at Paul Six to share. And thank you. Just Donna, you are just one of those people we can interrupt the middle of your spring break and ask you for help, and you're
never a problem.
So thank you. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.